Maybe we should say at the beginning of our episode, hey, don't write me off
If
from
you
this one
like
episode.
background.
This is a background origin story. Have a listen. If not, go ahead and skip to episode 3. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, the human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Today we're diving into the beginning.
The origin story. Gotta love a good
Dun,
origin
dun,
story.
dun.
This has a good origin story. Hang on.
It's an interesting one.
It's an interesting one. And I find that a lot of times in human design, circles or non-circles, or just trying to get the word out there, that a lot of people don't like to talk about the origins because it's weird.
It does sound a little suspicious or sketchy, just because of where it happened.
Well, that's quite a setup. Well, I will admit, like I told you in the last episode, that when I first discovered it and saw the body graph and tried to read some of the stuff, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I went on, it might have been Jovian Archive, and there was all these recordings from Rob, who we'll talk about here in a minute, who was teaching, and I was like, this guy's crazy. And I started to think, is this a cult? And so that's another reason I just remembered that I kind of put it down, because I was like, I don't want him getting in my brain. I might be getting
This guy is a
recruited.
cult leader.
I mean, he's crazy. And that's usually one thing people can agree on is a little strange, but brilliant at the same time. So anyways, where would you like to start, my dear?
With the supernova.
The supernova. Okay, cool. All right.
Because space is mind-blowing.
Yes. Well, okay. So in 1987, there was basically, which I had to look up what's the definition of a supernova, but it's the death of a star, apparently. And there was
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Okay, you get points.
Yes.
Bonus round. So, yeah, so there was this supernova, death of a star, and so it sent all this, basically, let's talk about neutrinos first. Do you know what a neutrino is?
I know because I looked it up. It's the matter between atoms, like between the parts of an atom.
No, well, sort of. It's
It's
basically
smaller
the
than an atom.
smallest. It's infinitesimally. I don't think that's the right word. Infinitesimally small.
It is
Matter, and it's something that they used to think was just pure energy, but they didn't think it had any mass.
infinitesimal mass.
Yes, very small. It's the smallest thing out there. And basically they have discovered neutrinos are the smallest things, let's call it, that have any kind of mass to them in our known universe. And they were just kind of theorized before about maybe they had mass, but they have since discovered, I think, since I don't know if it was before or after the supernova. I don't know. Anyways, it's basically the breath of stars is what they call neutrinos, because they're made in stars. They come from stars. And one cool thing I learned about them in researching some of this is that they travel in a straight line. They don't deviate.
Forever?
They just kind of like, yeah. And so the neutrinos basically can pass through everything all the time. Like right now on Earth, for every second, on every square inch of Earth, including us, there's like trillions, 3 trillion neutrinos just passing through us all the time. Okay. So we got neutrinos.
It's a bit rude.
They carry information. Some theorize the ancients that, not the ancients, We're not ancient scientists. But some scientists theorize, or some people theorize, that neutrinos are this, they carry the information, the vast information field that is our universe, and that informs everything, which is like chi and prana. It's the quantum in a way. So,
So, like, what kind of information?
well, we'll get onto that
Like,
in a
I
minute.
guess more information that we take in subconsciously.
No, like literally, so the death of a star that comes out and it just travels through space, and it travels like through Mars, or it travels through Venus, and it travels through us, and it's like I'll tell you more about it in a minute. Well, so now we can get back to the supernova. Okay.
Okay. Now we have
So
a background on
we have a little
neutrinos.
background. So there was this big, this was the first, I think it was one of the first ones that it was visible to the human eye. They were able to actually see it, probably through a
So I guess
telescope,
it was
because it
close
was,
enough.
yeah, it was in our universe. It was way out on the edges, but it was big enough that it was seen. And they say that the scientists,
They.
that basically for, I think it was, how long was it? It was a good long time, that the Earth and everybody on it received like
14 minutes.
three times
14
as many.
minutes.
That, thank you. 14 minutes.
I read that note.
3 times as many neutrinos as normal. And so it was not exactly at this time, but it was around this time, a little bit further on, because I don't know the exact date on the actual supernova, that there was this guy, Alan, your buddy, Alan Krakauer. Alan, you said his middle
Alan
name was.
Robert Krakauer
Mm-hmm.
from Montreal.
Oh, he's Canadian, eh?
He is Canadian.
Oh. He was
Oh,
living
his
in
birthday's
Ibiza.
coming. His birthday's coming up.
Yeah, he
April
was
9th.
living in Ibiza, Spain. And like, I don't know the guy personally. Obviously, he's passed, but there's a lot of speculation on, and I think he's even said himself, he may have been, imbibing things at the
He
time.
was a school teacher
What does
in
that
Ibiza.
mean?
I don't know.
Well,
He's a school
obviously
children.
he was doing drugs.
Obviously, he's a school teacher. No, just kidding.
No,
A school teacher.
anyway, so he basically had this event that he described as being penetrated by something he called the voice. And it was it was really interesting. It was the first time I read it not that long ago about how he described what had happened. It's like he just came home one night and his dog started barking, and he didn't know what was going on, and then suddenly he just like felt the presence of the voice. So this is why people don't like to talk too much about it. I think people are coming around more quote unquote woo things, which I hate the woo term. But basically had an 8-day experience of the voice telling him that he needed to write this shit down.
I read that he said it wasn't very pleasant. It was an
No, he
unpleasant
said it was
voice.
not a pleasant voice. It wasn't a pleasant experience. And
And
it
it
was
didn't
time to
let
get
him
to work.
eat, didn't let him eat, didn't let him sleep. Like
Man, I
eight
didn't hear
days.
that
That
part.
sucks. That's what I read.
Oh, I didn't know you did some reading.
That's why I was a little bit late to this meeting.
Maybe I should ask you questions.
No, don't.
No, all right. So basically he was given this system and he had no idea what it was. Like, he got all the information. It was very specific. And you'll find things in human design where there's just, you can only question for so long, well, why, like the centers, like the colors of the centers on the body graph, why are they certain colors? Nobody, that's just what the voice said. And
I
there's,
would like to know.
well, I've heard some people talk about it, say that knew him, that said that he said it was very specific colors, and it was had to be drawn a very specific way, and he had to keep redoing it and redoing it and redoing it until he got it right. But I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, the colors of the centers, because, I feel like they should be like colors of the chakras, but we'll get into that too. So basically, he said that he spent the next year or so of his life just trying to get himself back together again after having this experience, and then start kind of trying to assimilate this information. And And then he started teaching and sharing the system in 1992. So, what did he receive? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, the voice told him that, we are um, kind of all fragments of these two original crystals. He said that the what we understand as the beginning of the universe wasn't really the beginning of the as we understand it, and that it wasn't like the Big Bang wasn't like the end of something. It was the beginning of like almost like creation, conception. Like we, if you want to get really finite about it, he said that we are actually like a fetus in the womb. Like our universe, everything we know is we're not fully developed. And the voice even didn't call us humans, called us raves. The voice said humans haven't been born yet, that we're just the building blocks. I know you don't like that.
No, because that sounds scary.
That's why we'll just we'll just place that little nugget right there.
Put that one on the shelf.
Yeah, but I do think it's kind of important to note because let's face it, I'm a researcher. I'm a line one. I want to know all the information. And I know not everybody wants to know all the information, but there's quite possibly line ones out there that want to know. And I would say that he said that there was the voice. I shouldn't say it, the voice said that there was the basic yin and yang, right? So the yin was this, he called them like crystals. I'm going to stop saying that. I'm going to say they. There was like a yin egg that contained all the material of the universe. And inside this like egg was a crystal like structure. It's not really a crystal, it's just something our brains to understand. So there's this container of all material. And then the yang seed, which also had the same crystal structure, collided together. And this kind of goes along the same lines with how the building blocks of science, of the universe, according to science, is that there's matter and there's energy, right? And this is what this is, matter and energy. So when these two collided, it created this huge, explosion out into the universe. And so those original crystals, the yang and the yin, fragmented into zillions of crystals, just forever expanding out in the universe. And that's important because in the human design system, we have this design side, which is the body, and the personality side. So, and they refer to those as crystals, and they reside in our body. So the voice says there's a little bit of this crystalline structure in all of us. We are all part of the same thing. So there you go. I just like that. It makes sense to me, but I've been looking at it for a while. Any questions?
That's because I knew about the body and the personality side, but then to have it then tie back into that is interesting to know.
Yeah, it is. So what's also interesting to note, and this has to do with the actual mechanics of the system and like what it's built upon. The voice made basically two predictions at the time that were contradictory. This was 1987 to what science had already known. And one of them was about the neutrinos that we were talking about. So these neutrinos, they pass through all matter all the time, come from the far reaches of the universe. And they recently, just like 2 months ago, they're hard to find. They're hard to kind of pinpoint, but they have been found. And they found one. They have these huge underground laboratory type things that are there to try and track them. And they recently found one that came from way beyond the outer edges of our universe. Like these scientists, man, they're very crazy. Patient people.
Oh yeah,
they wait a long time and they
so
do
much researching,
a lot of calculations. Let's give them a round of applause. So, so if you think about it, these neutrinos, if they're passing through us, they are interacting with our DNA. Now, you asked about what information they bring, correct?
Yes.
So the analogy they like to give in human design is that imagine you have a white car and you have a black car. And as they travel towards each other, maybe they slightly run into each other, they like sideswipe each other. You might get a little black on the white car, you might get a little white paint on the black car. Nothing's really changed, but it's like influence. There's a little bit of material, a little bit of information on each car now. So they're a little different. So same thing as each neutrino passes through the universe, and it interacts with any other matter, it's forever kind of got a little different flavor to it, a little imprint to it. And then if it passes through us, it informs our DNA. That's the whole basis of everything. You're letting that simmer.
Interesting. The information bit is I don't like super abstracty things.
Yeah, I know. And there is, for me, it's about all I can do with this information because I'm not a scientist. I'll just take it at that. I'm like, okay. But, people have been studying the effects of the planets on our, here on Earth. I think it's crazier to say that all the things out in the cosmos don't affect us than it is to say it does. I mean, the moon affects us here on Earth, the gravitational pull and all this other stuff.
Let's not get started on the moon.
Why?
Because it confuses us.
Yeah. So in 1987, yes, in 1987, they did not yet know that these neutrinos had mass yet. And so we do now.
So they weren't a completely new concept, but they were very theoretical about having mass.
Right, because yeah, they thought they were pure energy, but science has since confirmed that they have very, 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 very small amount of mass. And I think your brother's one that told me, is like, yeah, because they don't travel faster than light. It's like, well, there you go, Ian.
Of course,
once again, can totally have information about something that you really shouldn't, but you do.
Yeah, but then sometimes he'll say something with the same confidence, and it's just a bold-faced lie.
There's that.
But that one, I feel like he actually knows.
So if that little factoid blew you away or got you irritated, this next one's really gonna grab you.
Oh no.
But we talk about it a lot in human design. And maybe we should put this episode like 4th or 5th so people get to be like, nah, I don't want to know anymore.
Well, we're either gonna suck them in or repel them, so
yeah. Well, just hang in there. We're going to get to the point of why this is relevant and how it can actually help you. But anyways, this is just our contribution. So the second prediction that the voice made was that not yet, and this is to right now, this is still true, has science found the existence of something called a magnetic monopole. So I know you know about magnets. They're dipole, right? They all have. Well, they are getting close. I just read an article the other day that, well, no, I didn't. I watched a YouTube video that had me for about, and this was a legitimate science channel. It wasn't some wacko science channel. This guy was so smart and used so many words I did not understand. I just sat there and first couple minutes, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to understand this. And then I was like, oh,
nope.
And it went on for like 20 minutes. And I thought, there's people that understand this stuff. This is crazy. But anyway, so they are close to discovering magnetic monopoles. And the voice says that they will discover that this is actually the source of
gravity.
Are you going to ruin my moments?
No, I wanted to be in on that one.
What do you think about that?
So we don't know where gravity comes from. We just know it's
really
there.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
They have theories, but it's one of those things that they don't, from what I understand, I was surprised here, they don't really know Like they have theories, but
But then
I don't
how
know.
can so
We
so then
might
how
get
can we
people commenting saying you guys are stupid.
no. So so they must know how gravity works because we
Mm-hmm.
can calculate the gravity on other planets.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So then how do we know our calculations on other planets are correct?
That is something beyond my pay scale. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, that's I'm just gonna drop that there too. Remember, magnetic monopole only attracts, does not repel. That's a very important part in the human design too, because they said, we've got those crystals, got the yin crystal, the yang
Mm-hmm.
crystal that reside in the head center, the ajna center, and then it's all held together in the G center, which we'll talk about later, by a magnetic monopole. This is what the voice says. So, most important thing here to understand is you don't need to really know any of this shit. It is not going to change if human design is useful to you or not. It
Mm-mm.
could be interesting to hear this, but it's not prerequisite to understand the origin story for it to work for you, right? Right. Because, but, so there's that. So, what have we covered? Wow,
Oh,
we get a lot. Okay.
so I wanted to know why he changed his name, and I couldn't
Oh,
find that
I haven't either.
because it's a very odd name. But according to this one thing I read,
Which
it
he
means
changed it from Alan Krakar to Ra Uru Hu. Who?
yeah, Uru, Uru, yeah, Uru. That
No,
reminds me of
Ra is a sun god.
Uru. Reminds me of Finding Dory when
I
Marlin is trying to call the bird over. He goes Uru, Uru.
don't
So
remember that.
well, I think I've seen that movie a few more times than you have.
I see.
So, so after he heard from the voice, this says after studying the old and modern wisdom teachers for 2 years, he changed his name, and his new chosen name, the Ra Uru Hu, apparently means the door closer. I
Really?
thought that was kind of interesting. That's what it
The
says.
door closer. I have never heard that before.
This is according to a Quora.
What? Can you say that again?
Quora. I was trying to add too many
What's
Q.
Quora?
It's
Oh,
a
Quora.
that
Quora.
one.
Quora. It's
Quora.
important. I've never heard that before, but
That's
could
apparently what it
be.
says.
I just thought
If it's
Ra
true,
was a
I
sun
found it kind of
god.
interesting.
Yeah, I wonder what door he's close with. So let's get on to we know the origin. So what did the voice deliver? This human design system
Yes.
basically is a synthesis of several other existing systems.
Like
And what's
5 or 6, right?
five? Yeah, it's okay. So the most recognizable components: astrology, Western
Mhm.
astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, and the Judaic Kabbalah, and they also say quantum physics. Yeah, well, neutrinos. So, what's interesting is, it's thrown out a lot, this synthesis thing, but it's not taking pieces and parts. It's like taking each system, because most of those well, except for quantum physics, have been around for a very, very long time. I mean, these are things that, the I Ching alone is, I think, one of the oldest things out there. Not out there, but um, a teaching.
One of the oldest texts, I think, is what I read.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, all the other ones are pretty old as well. And they were,
It's the oldest of the Chinese classic texts, the I
yeah.
Ching.
And they're all like wisdom teachings. They're like teachings on, how to be, how to interact, dealing a lot with your own personal system and your energy and how you're here to express a lot of these things. The I Ching, from what I understand, they're not really sure the actual origins of it. It's so old, and it's been interpreted and everything. Um, and I knew nothing about the I Ching before digging into human design. Same
Mm-hmm.
for Kabbalah Tree of Life is what it was, Tree of Life. Um, I really don't know anything about it still. Very much know the chakra system with my little background there in yoga and energy and all that stuff. So that's probably why it resonated a bit to me. But it'd be dabbled in a little astrology.
I feel
And
like
so,
that's definitely the one that people know the most. Like pretty much everyone, I feel like knows what their
mm-hmm.
star sign.
Sun
Is that
sign?
the sun
Sun
sign?
sign.
Sun sign,
There's no, I mean, the sun is a star if we want to get technical.
technically.
But what I was going to say about the synthesis is a true synthesis. Nothing is left out. And so it contains these systems. And I like to think of it as they were, almost like in a treasure hunt where you've got to gather the keys and put all the keys together or something like that in order to like get the final mystery piece to know unlock the door kind of thing, or the treasure
Mm-hmm.
chest.
Treasure
So
chest.
I see those as like, the way I see them is because I guess probably it is kind of layered together on the human design mandala, these layers of these systems that created really a whole new system. So it's not like he just, pigeonhole or picked or whatever the term is, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's just like it's informed by all of these already existing systems. Go ahead.
So it's
You have a
not
question.
like oh we'll take this from the chakras and this from I Ching and this from whatever. It's he kind of took he learned about the systems and then melded them.
From what I understand, he didn't do any of
He
that.
or the
It was
voice.
literally from what I understand, it was shown to him that this is how it looks on a mandala. So basically, when you look at the human design, because it is based on your time and your
Mm-hmm.
place and date of birth. And that is because of the neutrino stream. Where were you on the earth at what time exactly? What neutrinos basically pass through you? How are you influenced by the different planetary influences and everything else? What is your energetic DNA? What because it informed your DNA as it passed through you. So it shows you really, it's like the little my knowing circuit right now, 4323, it knows it and it's trying to bring language to it and it's having a hard time. This happens a lot. Did you know the little when they used to computers a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
used to have these like cards that had like punch holes like all punched through them and
I
you'd put it
have
in.
seen that. Yes, I have seen those.
That's how I imagine it. Like that's how I imagine what your body graph mandala is like. This is your signature. This is what boom, boom, like was imprinted on your DNA at the moment of your birth. That's how I see it. This is the information that was passed through to you. This is your unique signature energetic blueprint.
So,
And
like, say you would put a blank card in the moment you were born, it punched it out, and then pull out the card, and that's your human
yeah,
design.
yeah, that's one way of looking at it. If we want to get technical. Yeah. But where was I? Mm. So when we were talking about the neutrinos, they come from the stars. We were talking about this imprinting thing. They travel in straight lines. They carry this mass. They pass through and they interact with other things. So the mandala shows us where the planets were and how they were informed to uniquely imprint upon you when you were born. And so the very moment, very place is represented on this mandala. So you'll see the common placements of the planets. Now, there's also the layer of the I Ching. The I Ching is comprised of 64 hexagrams. And the easiest way to explain it, because I'm still learning so much about it, is like we said, it's an ancient oracle, but it's also a metaphor for life. It's archetypal patterns of the human experience. So we all have all 64 of these hexagrams, archetypes, whatever, because we're all human. It's which ones are going to be more consistent in us and which ones aren't. And that's what human design body graph mandala can show you. It's a map, like I said, it's a
And
map.
that is that defined by the planets?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So wherever the planet, like say wherever Venus is, whatever I Ching or sun sign or whatever it's at, will be more consistent and prominent in our lives.
Yes. So if you look at the mandala, you'll see there's another outer wheel that has the 64 hexagrams that go all the way around the wheel. And within each hexagram in the Chinese I Ching, these hexagrams are made up of 6 lines. Okay.
It
So,
reminds me kind of like Morse code.
okay.
Well, because there's like they sometimes there's dashes and
Mm-hmm.
then there's dots because they're like it's 6 lines, but then they're all different combinations of short little lines, long lines,
Mm-hmm.
full lines, broken lines.
Mm-hmm. Well, they said that, not they, I mean, some of the research I was doing, that it's this oracle of life, but it's also very mathematical, this the hexagram structure, because each hexagram has an upper trigram and a lower trigram, and it's really just a matter of different lines, and it's so complicated, like I can't even get into it right now, but like I can't even get into it right now.
I can't even.
But what's interesting, and this stuff will just like this, it will literally scramble your brain. I mean, when you see all the patterns and the fact that there's 64 hexagrams, there's like 64 codons in our DNA. There's a lot of correlations between the Chinese I Ching and the human genome system, which is really mind blowing. Yeah. Because somebody even said that when they discovered our genetic code, it was also discovered to be the same math from the I Ching of 5,000 years ago.
Dude,
So they say,
what?
therefore, this wheel, the mandala of the 64 hexagrams going around it, is
Hmm.
like stringing out of our genetic code. It's like a.
I wonder if the person that wherever the I Ching originated from,
Mm,
if it was a voice that also came to them.
ooh, maybe
If
they were all
there's, especially
voices.
if there's maybe,
So where did these things come from? Whoa.
because especially if there's like 5,000 years later, it's
Mm-hmm.
the same things, same math or whatever used to discover our genome, which 5,000 years ago, they had absolutely no idea that existed.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the same structure of like upper trigram, lower trigram. I think it's the same in these programming codons in our DNA have these upper structures and lower structures, and there's like 64 of them, and they all like correlate with different amino acids and all this shit that I don't understand. But I'm like, well, okay. So
So you can just say, okay,
yep. I say okay. I'm like, you say so. I'm gonna go with it because everything else checked out so far in this system for me. I've been looking at it for a while now. I haven't found anything that's like, no, that's not right. So you have the outer wheel astrology, the you know, which would be your sun signs, and or the inner wheel, and then you have the outer wheel of all the hexagrams. And like I said, each hexagram has these 6 lines, so each hexagram on the wheel is broken into 6 lines as well. So basically, there's going to be 384 lines around the human design mandala. Okay, so you would have.
like lines coming out like pie lines,
Yeah, it
like
looks,
coming out
it's
for the
like a
middle.
big spiral. It's a mandala. Not spiral, that's not the right word. Like a wheel. A
Pie,
wheel. A wheel.
pie.
Pie.
Wheel probably makes more sense because there's a lot of those would
Yeah.
be really, really tiny pie
I was like,
pieces.
I don't want a piece of that pie. So yes, so then on that inner wheel where all these little lines are, that's where we can map out where the planets were. right? Like you do in a normal astrology. So it's like you can see there's these structures on top of each other that when they all come together, they show you, you know, pinpointing the information down to the like very, very finite point of your structure, your energetic structure, basically. And then beyond, I mean, there's something that people call Astro HD where they really go into blending astrology and human design. But other than showing where the planets are on the mandala, it doesn't really use astrology beyond that.
What are the numbers between the I Ching and the astrology?
The numbers?
Yes.
What do you mean?
There's a on this body graph. It's kind of like there's a circle of numbers in between the Pisces, the Pisces, the astrology and the I Ching. I
Oh,
Ching.
the numbers. Those are the numbers of the hexagrams. Those are the 64th hexagram.
Those are the I Ching
Yeah,
numbers.
those are. So yeah, you'll see
Oh,
the
okay.
hexagrams, but those numbers are okay. So
I got
when
it.
you're looking at the human design mandala, then in the middle is the body graph. Those
Mm-hmm.
numbers are the gates, we call them, which are hexagrams. The hexagrams are gates. So in the I Ching, they're called hexagrams. In human design, they are called gates. Okay.
Ooh,
Yes.
it's already coming together.
Yeah. So when you look at a body graph, and I should point out, this is a lot to take in, just listening to it because it's a very visual component. That I do have the free
Mm-hmm.
training on the website. There's always a link in the show notes, which has a visual component here of, which is a lot easier for a lot of people to understand, myself
Mm-hmm.
included, of where what we're talking about here. But basically, yes, the when you look at a body graph and you'll see all the shapes on the body graph, there's triangles, there's squares, they all have numbers in them. Those numbers are always going to be in the same place on a body graph. So like the head center, gate 63, gate 61, 64, always there. Okay. What it shows us is based on when you were born and where a planet sits within that wheel. If you see, like in your case, the sun would show up in the little line that has a 63 on the end, I believe, or 64. I don't remember which one's your sun.
Thanks.
I look at a lot of autographs. And so, yeah, it's 63. Gate of doubts. um, So that would be why on your body graph, if you were to look at it where gate 63 is, it'll be what we call activated. It'll have a little circle number around it, which means that that gate was on, that gate was imprinted, that gate is activated in you. So if human design uses the calculation from the time of birth, place of birth, on the personality side, they call it. And then there's this other component of it, which is the design side, which is 88
Mm-hmm.
astrological degrees before you're born, which is basically 88 days before you're born. It's,
Roughly 3 months.
yeah, so these two are layered together as well to create this body graph. So basically, out of the 64 hexagrams slash gates that are there, there's going to be 26 planet placements. Now, some planets, like the big planets, outer planets, could activate the same gate both when, 3 months before you were born and on
Mm-hmm.
the day, like Uranus or Pluto.
The slow moving
Very
ones.
slow moving planets. They could see a double activation in. But, anyways, we can get into more of that later on when we're going into like what the gates and channels are and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what I will say about the 88 degrees before thing, because people are like, why is it 88 degrees? And what if you're born premature? Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Sound callous.
Especially when you proceed it with, what if you're born premature?
What?
Blah, blah,
That
blah.
sounded really harsh. I did not mean to be that way. So,
Whoops.
so I heard
So
it.
why 88 degrees?
So I heard it explained not that long ago because I've been hearing different explanations of it for a long time, and a lot of times one of those things just kind of glossed over. Let me see if I can get this out of my head again correctly. So basically, the voice said that before you were born, the energy of the Father pulls forth the design crystal, which the design crystal is the vehicle, is the body. Okay.
Okay.
And then this is somewhere around like 8 hours before conception or something. It's very, very precise.
Okay, voice.
But what I understood was that the design crystal is creating the body, it's building all the things, it's, making your vehicle. And then it's when the neocortex is fully formed, is around that 5-6 month mark, right? When the neocortex is fully formed, that's when the personality crystal, the you that you think is you, right? From the moment you're born,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it drops into the vehicle, into the body. So that the personality crystal has roughly 3 months to acclimate itself to its unborn form, to its vehicle, to its body. Because they also say in science that that is when brain function starts and all this stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
So the which one is the one that is put in stone when you're born?
Personality side.
Which side?
The
Personality.
personality side is the side that is the you that you think is you. It's what you most identify with. It's, if you're looking at the body graph, it's going to be on the right hand side of the body graph, usually in black numbers, and the design side, the vehicle side, the body is on the left, and it's the red numbers.
And the body's the one that is 88 degrees
Before, yes.
before
But
birth.
I just thought it was cool to hear it, and I only heard that explained recently, that the design crystal drops, is called forth, starts creating the vehicle, starts creating the body. It has all this other information with it. And then the personality crystal drops in to help you kind of get, you know, used to your new vehicle. So
Hmm.
that's it. So is there any?
Interesting.
So why do we why do we need to know all this stuff, right? Like,
Why?
what is the
Tell me
purpose?
why.
Well, what is interesting is that we talked about this is just information to have. Listen to it once. Don't worry about it again. You don't need to know any of it in order for human design to be beneficial to you. Because basically, when you see your body graph, it almost starts to work on you at a subconscious level, anyhow. Because your your consciousness starts to recognize what is you and what's not you. And a lot of people are not happy. A lot of people have lived very unhappy lives, not just now, for a long time, because generations past, because they never really understood who they really are. And what human design can show you is really the energy you bring into this world. What you are, what is consistent, reliable energy in you, and what you bring to the table, basically. And that the more you can explore and lean into that, you find that you don't have to change anything about yourself. Yourself is perfect. You just have to start peeling away the things that aren't you. So it's a map. It's almost like a logical way of seeing ourselves, that you can look at something and say, okay, this is me. You're talking about conditioning. Now, as babies, we're one of those few species here on Earth that are born completely helpless. Like we can't do
Yeah.
anything. We would die instantly, not instantly,
Yes.
but pretty quickly, because we
Few hours.
can't feed ourselves, we can't drink, we can't move, we can do nothing. Our brains aren't even formed either, you know? And
Fully formed.
yeah, fully formed. And so we rely on the people in our environment to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And that is built into the human experience. That isn't something that just started happening. This has been since the beginning of time. So what happens is you learn all the people around you, not just family, other people. You learn their experience of the world. You learn their beliefs about the world. And you live your life according to what they know. And this is something that totally changed me in my life when I first learned this concept in yoga, is that whose life are you living? If you don't ever question what you think, what you know, and it's quite enlightening. So basically, human design shows you, look, this is how you came in. This may not be what you think about yourself now. You may not believe it, but this is you. And I have found over and over and over and over again, for myself, for other people that I've done readings for, friends I've talked to, 100% resonate with what the body graph shows them about themselves. Nobody is ever completely like, that is so not me. Kind of like how when you say, oh, you're a Scorpio, you must be deep and mysterious and brooding. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't think so. Am I?
No.
Like, oh, you're vengeful and you're dark and you're scary. I'm like,
no.
I could have been at one point, but no. It's
maybe in high school.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not, what you're seeing is not subjective. There's no test to take or anything like that. It is like literally, here you are. And then it shows you how you're designed to energetically interact with others in the world, how you are designed to make decisions that are aligned for yourself. And it's very simple stuff. We keep talking about complexities and there's so much information, but the basics of what you need to know to help you start living more aligned and hopefully happier is the basic parts, which is what's your energy type, what's your authority, which is how are you meant to make decisions, and that's all you need to know, and that's what we're going to keep diving into. So I think we've got a long time today, so any other questions?
No.
Okay. Well, I think the next time what we should do next is talk about the types, the human design aura types, and get into the fun part of it. And well, this was fun, but this is just like,
No, we're just gonna talk a lot more about Robert Allen.
yeah, some people just,
this Allen Robert.
people don't like background history. Some people do. So you know what? Hopefully, maybe we should say at the beginning of our episode, hey, don't write me off
If
from
you
this
like
one
background.
episode. This is a background origin story. Have a listen. If not, go ahead and skip to episode 3.
Just go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So, I think that's it for today. We'll just wrap it up there and,
Yes.
keep going. So,
I'm excited to get into the types.
yeah.
The types, that's technically the like the manifestor and those types.
Those are types. Yep. The human design energy types. That's it. So there you have it. There's your background. Now we can move on. So we'll see you in the next episode. How's that sound, Haley?
Let's talk about types.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Well, you made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share this podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Catch you in the next episode.